This is Dan Harrelson alongside Nick Taylor, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with Texas Tech head football coach Tommy Tuberville. How are you doing today, Coach?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good.
We're doing great. Glad to have you on. Well, Coach, obviously this is your first year as the head coach at Texas Tech. Talk about the progress you made in the spring, and I guess as a follow-up or a second part to that, just talk about the recruits that you brought in and the holes that you tried to fill as you got ready for spring ball and the upcoming season is your first year there.
Well, this is my third time to restart a program. One at Ole Miss, then at Auburn, now here at Texas Tech. And, you know, the one thing I've always noticed, the first 6-7 months, there's not enough time in the day to get everything done because there's so many things you have to do, so many things you have to learn. You have a new staff you hire, new players that are underneath you, recruiting that you have to get started. Man, we were thrown right into it. Normally you change jobs the 1st of December, and this job didn't come open until like the 5th of January this year. So we've really felt like we've been behind the whole time, but I feel like we're catching up now. We've got a recruiting class underneath us. We know our players. We've gone through spring practice. And we've made some progress. We got a lot of things that we've got to accomplish in the next 3 months before we get to two-a-days. But I like what's happened. We had a pretty good recruiting class. We can throw the football here now. We've got some pretty good running backs, but we're real short defensively on numbers. And so this last recruiting class, the one we put together in, I guess, in about 20 days, we signed 6 offensive players and 18 defensive players. We just did not have any numbers on the defensive side of the ball. So that was one area we had to address, and then it was good to get into spring practice to kind of get to know what we had on both sides of the ball. And we won't be a bad football team. We've got some skilled guys on offense. As I said, we've got a couple senior quarterbacks. We've got a lot of work to do in a lot of areas, but I think that things are coming along great, and I'm excited about the future. We just got a lot of work to do, and right now it's just not enough time in the day to get it all done.
Well, Coach, you bring up the running backs. Obviously, you've had a great resume and a great track record of having pretty good running backs in your system, going back to Deuce McAllister at Ole Miss in those days. At Auburn, you had Rudy Johnson, Cadillac, Ronnie Brown, Brandon Jacobs, and even Ben Tate. Do you think you can install that into the Texas Tech offense that was so pass-happy and so one-dimensional, and also your defensive background? You're obviously going to bring, like you mentioned, you brought in a lot of recruits in for the defensive side. You're obviously going to change that mindset of this football team. But talk about the running game. Do you think you're going to run a lot more with the Texas Tech offense?
Well, I'll tell you, I've been very, very excited about looking and watching the players as we practice in the first spring and throwing the ball around. And with our offensive linemen, we've got some huge offensive linemen. I'm used to 6'2", 6'3" guys, and here they're all 6'7", 6'8", more on the pass protection side. And so it's going to take a while to transition a little bit to more of the running game. But I like throwing it. I like what we're doing. I think we could take this offense and bring it to the SEC with the talent we have. We could score a lot of points. It's just we've got that type of player. But we will run the ball a little bit more, and just for the sake of protecting the quarterback. You know, when you in the past they've thrown it 60, 70 times a game, and what happens is those defensive guys just tee off on your offensive line and on your quarterbacks, and it's tough to keep them healthy. And so we want to be able to slow the defensive line down a little bit, run the ball a little bit more, be a little bit more physical. But then it all goes back to one thing: you're only going to be as good as your defense. You're not going to be able to win championships by trying to outscore people every week. It just, you're going to run into some weeks where your offense is not going to be able to score that many points. And so my main emphasis right now is to get this defense to major college level, so to speak, to be able to compete for a championship. And we started that from day one. I think we're getting better. I'm anxious to see how we play next fall. We might not be very good at all, but we've got some guys that have been really working hard to play good defense and kind of catch up with the offensive level that they've had in the last few years.
Well, Coach, you do bring up the defensive side of the football and winning championships. Of course, you started this coaching run at the University of Miami, winning 3 national championships, 87, 89, and 91. Talk about that. Talk about winning the national title, going undefeated at Auburn, and a lot of people don't realize that you did have a unbeaten season at Texas A&M as a defensive coordinator. Talk about all the success you've had, and especially in the different conferences. How does the SEC compare to like I guess it was the old Big East back then with Miami and even the old Southwest days?
Yeah, the one thing that we want to do here at Texas Tech is compete for a championship, and they've never done that here since the Big 12 has been formed. They've not played in the championship game, and we're doing a lot what we did at Ole Miss when we were there, and then also at Auburn is we're going to do it the right way. I've gone back and looked at over the years at championship teams and national championships or conference championships and how they've won, and the bottom line is, number one, they play defense. If you go back and look at Florida's two teams that won the national championship, they were defensive dominated, even though they had a great quarterback in Tim Tebow. They won it because how they played defense. Steve Spurrier, his year, they played defense, and they had a good running back that year that really helped. And of course, Alabama this year, they were pretty good on offense. They were real good on defense, and that's how they won the SEC and the national championship. So we just want to add that to it. I've gone back and looked at everything that we did at Miami and how we recruited and type of players. As you said, Texas A&M, we went undefeated there, and we did it because we won a lot of games 14-10, 21-17, and we just want to add that speed and physical ability to play people here defensively. Now, one thing you have to do in this league is you have to adjust defensively. It's not like playing in the SEC. They throw the ball in every category here and every team in the Big 12, and you have to adjust the type of players that you recruit. You don't have to line up every week and stop big running backs and two-back teams and have those big defensive linemen and 230-pound linebackers. You better have guys that can run, that can cover backs out of the backfield, defensive backs that can play man, whether it's a slot receiver or an outside receiver. So a little bit of adjustment for me in the type of defense that we're going to have to play here to get to that championship level.
Well, Coach, obviously, transitioning into the Big 12, there seems to be a little bit of difference in recruiting and also just conference philosophy in terms of the way that the teams play. I know Oklahoma and Texas are physical, but how do they compare to, say, the Giants of the SEC? I mean, is there a big difference between conferences, or is it pretty much something that's uniform? In other words, if you're a great team, it doesn't really matter what conference you play in.
I think it really doesn't make any difference. I think it's a little bit of the style. The only difference that I've seen so far, and again, I have not gone through a season here, is there's teams in this league, obviously the teams that have dominated are Oklahoma and Texas. They play good defense. They're physical. They can run. They can play with anybody, any team in the country. Offensively, there's a lot of teams over here that can play anywhere in the country. There's teams that can throw it around. They've got good quarterbacks. They've got good skilled players on the outside. It's just a philosophy difference. The big difference in this conference and the SEC is the running back. The running backs that teams have, the type of offensive linemen that are recruited in the SEC are different. Here, you have the 6'6", 6'7", 6'8" guys that are more pass-oriented. In the SEC, you have the 6'2", 6'3" guys that get a three-point stance and knock you off the ball. And it's just a philosophy difference. Not to say either one's right or wrong. It's just that's the way people approach it. And so what we want to do here is to add a little bit of both. We want to be able to run a little bit more, but also continue to be able to throw the ball down the field to be exciting to a lot of the recruits coming out, and then play very aggressive defense. But again, it's going to have to be with smaller guys that can run, that can play pass defense, because that's what we're going to see every week.